on this episode. Now let's get into it.
My next claim is, unless you're
I feel like that's gonna.
But yes, this is Sam Seder.
a billionaire, a religious fundamentalist, or a xenophobic nationalist, voting for Trump was a mistake.
Okay, so let's tackle one aspect, religious fundamentalists. What benefit would religious fundamentalists get? And also, can you define what is a religious fundamentalist?
And maybe you could say more of like a Christian nationalist.
Okay.
In this instance. But things like, the attacks on trans folks, the attacks on a woman's right to choose, the idea that we're going to get stuff like an enhanced RFRA, which is going to mean that if you're a pharmacist and you don't want to provide birth control, you may not have to.
Don't you think you're assuming that
if you believe that public education, we should take that money and pour it into religious schools, you're gonna get a benefit out of a Trump administration.
Yeah, but don't you think you're assuming that the vast majority of Americans who are moderates?
What do you think you're gonna get out of the Trump administration?
Economic relief. That was
what kind of economic relief? They're going to cut Social Security. You're going to have to pay for your parents. They're going to cut when they go after the agencies like they're going after, right? This is outlined in Project 2025. Russ Vought, who's
Spacebar. Okay, he's trying to say, oh well, most Americans are moderates, and Trump was elected. Like that's the whole point of his sort of prompt here is that hey, for you Americans, including Republicans and conservatives who aren't nut jobs, Christian nationalists, or various other things, very much like the extreme end of American politics, you shouldn't have voted for Trump, and you're not really gonna get anything out of that. I think there's a lot of people who vote. I mean, a lot of it is just less Democrats voted because of Palestine, but the whole point is, people I think this guy seems relatively. He definitely said a lot of things that I disagree with strongly, but he seems relatively reasonable. I think he doesn't quite get how bad and extreme the Trump administration is getting, and you're already seeing, especially with a lot of the Doge stuff, a lot of people really seeing, Trump. What Trump sold me was really not what he's doing. He sold it all on the economy and bringing down prices, and he comes in and everything that he's focusing on is invading Greenland, trying to destroy us, Canada, trying to cutting probably very soon, cutting Social Security, all of these stupid cuts, and firing people with Doge.
He's going to be the OMB head. He was the OMB head the first time around. He wrote all the book on this stuff.
Okay, well, you bring up Project 2025.
When you cut agencies and go after them, and you fire all the inspector generals so that they.
Oh, and if you're not familiar with how this show works for Jubilee, when the flags get to 20, that means the guy currently talking to him has been voted out, and then someone else will be able to try to be the guy debating Sam.
They're not being able to make sure that the agencies are working. Who do you think profits from that? It's corporations. They're going to go after agencies that make sure your food is not full of botulism, that your air is not full of mercury, that your water is not full of C8. This is what they're going to do. Agencies exist to curb corporations from externalizing their costs and privatizing their profits. So it may be cheaper for a company to dump their chemicals into a river than it is.
Yeah, I actually used to be, when I was youngish teenager, probably around 15, 16, I used to be kind of a like a libertarian. Like I was sort of like I think I like to think of myself as like a social anarchist for a little bit, or libertarian socialist, whatever. Um, where like I pretty much did feel like there should be the absolute minimum form of government, and people should just like work together. Uh, but like I really very quick as my read more and my political views developed more, like it's like that's a great ideal. Like, okay, yeah, we should let people, make choices and do what they want. But like, we don't live in an ideal world, and if we just didn't have any rules and regulations, like companies will all screw us over, and all the power and money will just go straight to the top. I mean, it basically does under even this form of government, right?
For them to dispose of it in a safe way. And so they get the profits from that, but the costs are borne by society. They're borne by society in the form of like people get cancer. They're borne by society in terms of like we've got to do the cleanup. That's what agencies do.
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your seat.
It's good. Hey. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Okay, so I would like to touch on the religious fundamentalist aspect.
Yeah.
Are you an atheist?
I'm a Reformed Jew. I don't have a strong belief in the existence of God, but I don't think that religion in and of itself is bad.
Okay, so what's wrong with religious fundamentalists? So like when you said trans rights and women's rights or something like that?
Well, the problem I have with religious fundamentalists, and really more, I guess it's really theocrats, is that they want to impose their morality that comes from their religion on the rest of us, and I don't.
But morality, from your view, is going to be a preference, right? It's not morality; it's a preference. So morality without a foundation is going to reduce you to a preference.
Well, I have a foundation for my morality.
Which is what?
It's a humanist vision of what basically creates as little suffering as possible for as many people.
Okay, so you're like a
Like everyone has a morality. It's just like Christian nationalist form of morality. It's just a specific morality just based on like a 2,000-year-old book, or interpretations of a 2,000-year-old book, and not like you can as an individual say murder is wrong and stealing is wrong. Like all of us have some inherent sense of morality, like the idea that okay, if we're not theocrats or based on one particular religion, that we're just going to not have any moral system.
a consequentialist, utilitarian.
I don't really.
I guess in fairness, like Sam did open with a prompt about Christian or about religious fundamentalists. But yeah, this guy he wants to one of those guys just gonna turn everything into a religious
really
Okay,
bother
it's
myself
fine.
with being a consequentialist or a
Okay.
utilitarian.
It's always going to reduce you to a preference. So if you say that killing is wrong and I say it's right, you would really have no contention with that.
Well, no, I
have a moral
don't
contention.
base my understanding of civil society on religion. And so we have a civil society.
Okay.
We have laws that we have decided as a society in a
Yes.
democratic way. And for
Perfect.
some people, it's okay for it to be informed by their religion. That's okay.
Okay, perfect. So if tomorrow society comes together and we say, hey, trans folks don't deserve rights, you would be okay with that?
No, I would be against it, but I mean, it would be
It would be morally right under your
not
view.
morally right. No. I'm not
Okay.
talking about.
Yeah, I feel like he did phrase that badly, because I would just say, hey, we as humans have an inherent sense of morality that doesn't come from, it can be informed in some ways, but it doesn't come from, from the Bible or from specific religious traditions, right? If we didn't have the Bible, we would still have a sense that, killing is immoral, stealing is wrong. Like somebody, like all of the the half or less than half of the Ten Commandments that are actually genuine, moral rules, right? That aren't things like, don't worship gods that aren't Yahweh. Most of them are just like natural moral ideas that are not inherent to Christianity at all, right? It's not like nobody before Moses had the thought that, oh yeah, we shouldn't be killing anyone, we shouldn't be stealing from people, like all of that. Like we would, if everyone was atheist, we would still have those ideas. But I feel like Sam kind of phrased it like as if morality comes from democratic popular will and what our laws are, which I would strongly disagree with. And I think he, like, if you really press him on it, wouldn't really agree with that either. I think in his mind at this specific moment, it kind of just seemed like the most like the easiest argument for why it's not about religion. But yeah, obviously, morality is not just based on what you know, a society collectively decides to you know, to make their laws. Like, yeah, there have been many you know, societies with crappy laws, right? It was, you know, Canadian society collectively agreed that, you know, Indigenous people and Black people and Asians weren't really human and didn't deserve proper rights, and that it was justified to, you know, conquer and you know, to conquer you know, Turtle Island and subjugate and murder Indigenous people because they were Christian and had this unique right as Christians to take over Canada.
Morals.
Okay,
here.
so here's where I'm getting to, right? Religious foundations provide an ethical framework for one to live their life off
I
of.
believe you can have an ethical framework without religion.
And if we take the leftist view to its logical tail end, to its extreme view, you have low reproductive birth rates, you have a reproductive dead end, so two men together can't reproduce unless they have to take from a healthy straight couple.
Wait, what's the, so if we take the left, to its logical end, we end up with low, how do we end up with low birth rates? Like, because what? Because women, like, what? Because we have, like, birth control, less women would be getting pregnant accidentally, or maybe he seems like he's also probably pretty anti-queer, so like maybe he's thinking of like queerness as like a left-wing thing, and so there being, you know, us being okay with like gay people having sex instead of forcing them into straightness or whatever means less children. I don't really get what he's saying.
Religion provides this foundation where you do prioritize the nuclear family.
So do you have a problem with gay people being married?
It's not.
But like, even if we are accepting that, okay, religion provides a moral basis for morality, even if we accept that's true, like the question is still more about, well, which religion? Because even the way he framed it, it's not even religious fundamentalism. Like, I don't know how many you know, Hindu nationalists are necessarily going to be that happy with you know, with Trump. Some aspects, I'm sure, right? But like, it's also very specifically Christian nationalism, right? They're not universally in favor of people being religious, right? They want people to be evangelical Christians, or maybe in some cases, I think there are some of these, like, you know, right-wing Catholics, but like first and foremost, predominantly it is this right-wing evangelical Christian fundamentalism. Like, they're not going to be supportive of, like, you know, pagans or you know, indigenous animists using their spirituality as part of their you know, informing their politics.
Not that I have a problem, I just don't see a justification for why they ought to be gay outside of it just feels good. Can you give me another justification for it?
Well, I think maybe that's the way they were born.
Okay,
Yeah.
what about pedophiles? Are they born that way?
They may be, yeah.
Okay, so should we let a pedophile off the hook since they were born that way?
No, I think we as a society has decided.
Should implement duties to prevent them from acting on that innate urge, correct?
Well,
Okay, yes, but like, even if you think like there is something immoral about being gay because God hates gay people or whatever, like I think obviously there's like an inherent difference with like a pedophile. Because a pedophile, like a child can't consent, right? With a gay person, you are talking about two consenting adults. Even if you think like the act they're doing is gross or whatever, like they're still mature adults making a decision to, do this to have relations with each other.
I think between consenting adults, it's a different thing than.
Okay, so you're okay
preying
with
on
a
children.
45-year-old dad with a 19-year-old daughter as well?
Hey.
Incest.
No.
If they consent, you're okay with that?
No, I think society has also determined that it's like it's not beneficial.
Right, there's
for-
duties and obligations that we have, so religion provides those duties. Life isn't about
Well, but
freedom
also
and
I can-
exercising what you want.
I mean, well, you want to impose your religious doctrine
No,
on me,
because
and I don't want that.
you just admitted we need duties. We have responsibility as a society to keep us functioning, to keep us thriving. Your leftist view, the liberal view, doesn't provide anything besides it just makes me feel good. Religion does. So what's your argument?
What's my argument as to why I don't want
You have no
your
contention.
religion to? Well, because first of all, I don't think that you have the right to corner what God is telling us is right or wrong. And there are differences between religions. And so my argument is,
Yeah, like what if like there are like I think the United Church of Canada, I think, is like very pro-queer, right? So even if you're saying, okay, everything's going to be based on religion, well, which even if you're talking about Christian denominations, right, Christian sects, which one are you going to say is the supreme authority that now all our laws have to be based on, right? Or I think I mentioned like indigenous spiritual traditions, which like you'll have a lot of them that honor queer people, two-spirit people, different gender traditions, like you're because it's not even us just having a conversation about what should there be a place for spirituality in politics, but it's about them wanting this control of this one specific sect of a specific religion.
like you're not going to keep halal or kosher, right? I mean, I don't believe that someone has a corner on religious truth. And the reason why we have a democracy is because we didn't want a king. And the kings came from the idea that their God said that they're the ones who's supposed to be king. And so we can disagree on this. I don't want to live in a country that is ruled by religious fundamentalism.
And if I do, you have no issue with that.
And no. And this is why I say, under Trump, yes, you have won.
Yes.
You have a
Only
bunch
male
of
and
Christian.
female. You're right.
You have a
You
Christian
won.
nationalist,
Yes,
and
which is necessary.
And so I concede the point that under Trump, your Christian nationalism has gained an advantage.
Yes.
under that.
Sorry, we're going
And
to have
so
more kids. We're going to have less abortions. We're going to have more family. We're going to have stable family households. Sorry about better
Trans
education.
people, gay people should be outlawed.
They should be straight. They should be straight.
Women should be
Oh my
secondary
God.
to their husbands.
Women should submit
right?
to the husbands.
Women
That doesn't
should
mean they
submit to the
that doesn't mean they are
husbands.
slaves.
Right,
It doesn't
no,
mean they are
I
slaves. It
understand.
means they are
No, I
protected.
understand. You
Okay,
got
let
a
me ask you that. Let me ask you.
No.
Should
I
women
want
be
you-
drafted?
listen,
Should women be
listen,
drafted?
Listen, I think
If they're equal, should they be drafted?
I
Nobody
think
should
this
be
is the
drafted.
vision that you have, and I think Trump supports it.
Yes.
I think the Christian nationalists he has throughout his government are all going to work towards your vision.
Yes.
And my hope is that when people look at this, they say, hey, wait a second.
This
I
has
don't
got
want
progressively
my
crazy.
life to be dictated by the notion of a Christian nationalist prescription. Now, you may win out. I mean, certainly, like if you look at a country like Iran, they have a theocracy there, and apparently that's good for them if they want it.
My final point is whenever
but
we
I
see,
don't want to live in a
My final point is
theocracy.
whenever we see people live out Christian values to its full extent, we see a great society. When we see people deviate from that, that's where all the problems arise.
All right.
I
pause.
think you are at home in the Trump. Trump
Thank you
world.
very much.
You've been voted out. Please return to your seat.
Sorry, guys. I think I have an issue with the implications of the prompt. I mean, of course, I'll stick on the religious fundamentalism. I think it's unfair to view Christianity separated from the ideology that Christianity informs, right? You have an ideology that you vote upon because you view it to be the truth that benefits everyone in a society. That's how a democracy works. I, as a Christian, have an ideology that informs my opinions, and I believe that it is the most moral and correct way for a society to function. So I think if we put religious fundamentalism in a box where you say any moral implications that I draw from this, religion is unable to be voted upon, unable to be pushed onto you because simply it's a religion, is unfair to view it that way. Religion is an ideology.
I mean, I wouldn't, that's fair enough, right? Saying a religion is an ideology, a system of beliefs. We all have systems of beliefs and things that inform, say, morality. It's not it wouldn't be so much if okay, you trying to push for a particular policy because influenced by hey, you're a Christian or you're a Muslim or you're animist, whatever. But it's because they try to say, well, this has to be the case exclusively only because this is my interpretation of, say, the Bible, right? That asks why do we need to do this? Well, it's in the Bible, right? I think what was it was this Israeli politician, I think it was the former prime minister Naftali Bennett, who was sort of asked about plans for ethnic cleansing and taking over of the Palestinian territories, and he said, oh well, you're gonna have to, if you disagree with that, you're gonna have to check with the Bible, you're gonna have to check with the Torah. That's to me the real problem. You could be, I could totally think of someone who say is Christian and thinks, okay, well that's a reason, these Christian values are a reason we need to abolish poverty and do everything we can to make sure no one is going to bed hungry. I think that would be a much more accurate, much more logical, policies based on religious values than let's ban gay and trans people.
Like all ideologies are, it's you vote away.
I don't mind you. I don't dispute the idea that you could have a religious ideology and want to see it imposed upon others, and it's not inconsistent with my claim. My claim is that Donald Trump is ushering in an element of Christian theocracy that I can't remember his name, and you may be excited about, but I'm not excited about it. I don't think the vast majority of Americans are, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I don't think this country was set up to be a theocracy, and I find it problematic that it will be, but others will be happy about it.
I think it's unfair as well to label any morals that comes from religion inherently immediately theocratic. Having a theocracy is something different than having...
I think love thy neighbor is a good precept, and I don't know that we should necessarily legislate it, but I think it's a good precept. I think there are things from religion that are good. I interviewed Desmond Tutu years ago, who said that religion can be, is like a knife. It can.
Yeah, I mean, Tommy Douglas, father of Medicare in Canada, he was, I forget which denomination, but he was a Christian preacher.
It can be used to spread butter, or it could be used to stab people. But that doesn't mean that I want religious doctrine to be the same as the law of the land. We have a democracy, and it was founded on trying to get out from some type of religious oppression, which means one religion shouldn't dominate in this country. That's my sense.
Yeah, and I see that, but I think I have an issue with where you would perceive religious doctrine is derived from, right? A guy doesn't, at least in Christianity, a guy doesn't go in a room and come out and say that he is a secret message from God that everyone now has to follow. Religious doctrine is ruled over, it's reasoned over, the same way any ideology is discovered.
I'm not talking about the validity of religious doctrine. I'm talking about religious doctrine supplanting democracy and civil society.
And I'm saying that religious doctrine is democratic inherently, and in the way that you.
Well,
Or
I mean, look,
inherently.
we can have a debate as to whether or not women should be subservient to
Exactly.
men.
Right.
I don't think they should be,
Right.
and in a democracy, I don't think it's healthy.
Right, but when you said earlier with him that someone shouldn't have I don't know the exact word, like a chokehold on what is, religious truth and what isn't religious truth, that's not how religious truth itself works.
Yeah, but because again, I feel like I have to keep saying this because people always or very often, especially right wingers, when they talk about religion, they imagine that there's only one specific form of religion in the world. America, like Canada, is a multicultural country, at least in the sense of there are people from all over and with all sorts of cultures and different religions and spiritualities living in there who are going to have, even if they are very religious, are going to have very different views, even if they're in the same, different denominations of the same religion, or of course if they're in, very different religions, they're going to have different ideas. So for a multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-religious democracy to function, you can't make one religion the official one that has dominance over it. You need to allow for all these different religions and for the lack of religion.
And that's not how religious truth is brought to the political table to have that work either, right?
I don't know. When Pete Hegseth is in a bar yelling, we're going to kill all Muslims.
Well, that's, yeah.
But now he's in charge of the largest military in the history of the world. I think, and he's informed by his Christian nationalism. I think that's a problem.
Right. Well, but
we can disagree on that.
Yeah, we don't take.
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority.
Thanks, Sam.
Return to your seat.
Oh, it's only like morality.
Okay, so Eleazar mentioned his views on gay marriage, and I saw that you believe that essentially conservatives don't believe that gay marriage should be allowed. I want to ask everybody in this room, is there any law or legislation that Donald Trump has passed to prohibit same-sex marriage in the last 4 years? Okay. Is there anyone in here who would potentially oppose two people kissing in public that are of the same sex? You could raise your hand if you want. Yes, in public, kissing in public. No.
I feel the need to point out that, like Clarence Thomas, after they struck down, I think it was after they struck down affirmative action. So Clarence Thomas, Supreme Court Justice, he, in his, sort of opinion on that, basically openly called for people specifically that said, oh yeah, we should also be reviewing the court decision that brought interracial marriage and that legalized gay marriage. So like even without Donald Trump technically having to lift a finger except to replace any justices that happen to die or retire during his term, doesn't really need to do anything to technically allow gay marriage to be abolished, because right now, right now it is constitutional, right? So like there isn't really anything that Trump could do other than like, I don't know. I guess they could introduce like some law trying to ban gay marriage just so it would be challenged in the Supreme Court, so that the Supreme Court could officially abolish gay marriage. But right now, I think that court, especially Clarence Thomas, are pretty much just waiting for an opportunity to abolish it. And I'm sure there are conservative activist, groups looking for like some specific case they can use to completely strip away all marriage equality rights.
No law against it, just your own opinion. Okay, so these are all people's opinions, right? The same way you have your opinions about Christians is the same way these people are allowed.
No, I don't have a problem with Christians.
Well, you do not believe that theology should be at its
we should not have a theocracy.
Correct. And so what I'm saying,
I mean, my grandmother, who is a massive, massive Catholic, she didn't believe in this. She wouldn't be supporting any of this like Christian nationalist stuff. She hated the freaking Republicans in the States. She like she strongly disagreed with abortion. She didn't think anyone should ever do it, but she believed, to the 1,000% that that it shouldn't be legislated, right? That women should have the option to get it.
Thing is, I think that Christianity, I'm a Catholic. I think that Christianity is, I think, fundamentally very important to instill family values in myself as well as every person who wants to have children. Now let's talk about
okay with that too.
let's talk about Order 14,166. That is an executive order that Donald Trump just imposed on identifying what is male and female. So I personally believe, as well as many transsexuals, friends of mine, believe that a woman is a biological female, as well as a man being a biological male. You are assigned what you are at birth. You are not assigned your gender later on. What you choose to express is something that is similar to wearing a garment, similar to what you decide to put on your face. And I don't think there should be laws or legislations dictating people or imposing laws to manipulate children, for example, to castrate their bodies at such a young age. 50% of children.
Do you know how many children are treated over the past 5 years? Let's say, I think it was from 2018 to 22, there was a study that just came out from Harvard. Do you know how many children received gender-affirming care, but broken down into puberty blockers and then hormones?
Give me the numbers.
You tell me. I'm curious.
Well, I'm curious because you're bringing it up.
No, I have the numbers.
Okay, tell me.
I do, but I'm curious if you know.
Tell me what the numbers are.
I promise to tell you after you tell me what you think it is.
I'm not gonna play that game.
Because I have a feeling
we're not playing this game.
No, I am playing this game because I think you think it's much higher. When you tell me that kids are being castrated, I know you don't really know what these numbers are. And I do know these numbers.
Okay, well, I can tell you this much. It was reported that scientifically every single child who has received gender-affirming care, about roughly 50% of them regret it. And 50% of them are suicidal.
That is not true. Oh, are they citing something here? Studies on the subject often suffer from researcher bias. That's probably a fact check. From all the data that we do have, the regret rate for people who went through gender affirming care, trans people or people who thought they were trans, right? The regret rate is it's like a it's like a point. It's like less. It's this very, very small amount. I think it might have been like 2% or whatever. But it's this very small amount that is actually significantly lower than what the average rate for just surgeries in general. Because generally, surgeries are a major thing. People tend to regret. Many people regret them, even if they were for very important, life-saving things. Sometimes, people I kind of regret that surgery.
Suicidal because of it. They're actually more depressed because of it.
How many of those kids? How many?
A psychologist,
by the way.
How many
over the course of 5 years?
Well, tell me.
You tell me.
Tell me.
Just give me
I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to put me in this chokehold of
no, I'm not trying to put you in a
moment.
No, this is definitely a gotcha moment because I'm suggesting to you that you think this problem is much bigger than it is.
It is a huge problem.
Okay.
Medi-Cal covers inmate trans women.
I understand that, yes. And I know one person has had that surgery.
I don't understand how my...
Yeah, so we got it. The regret rate for, so less than 1% of transgender people report regret after gender-affirming surgery, which is lower than the rate for cisgender people. I assume for assume they mean for other surgeries for cis people. Yeah, less than 1%, or at the high end, 1.94%. And what's the average regret rate for? The average regret rate for surgery in general is the regret rate for surgery in general is 14.4%, and then it's less than 1% for trans people or non-trans people who, people who thought they were trans who had a gender-affirming surgery. Come on, where are you getting this freaking 50% of trans children go?
Taxes should go for an inmate prisoner who wants to transition.
Well, I think because we got to do.
And also, if we're saying children, because I assume he means people like under 14, 16. Don't can't have sex change surgeries, right? They don't get they'll go through social transitions. They might go on puberty blockers. But generally, until they're at least 14, those serious surgeries are just not going to happen, period.
Health care for prisoners,
Gavin
and you don't consider it real
Newsom-
health care. But
Gavin
hold on, I
Newsom
don't want
has
to get
imposed
listen,
$2.6
it's
billion in
900 kids
2022.
over 5 years.
That is a lot of
received
children.
Puberty blockers.
That is a lot of children.
900
AB
kids over 5 years.
547 just
Do you know how
passed,
many,
including
do you know how
gender
many kids died
identity,
during
gender
COVID?
identity,
All right.
to allow children
10
to be
kids a
separated from
month
their parents
die
just
from
due to not
accidental
affirming
gun,
their gender
gun deaths.
identity.
But here's the point. Listen, Trump how is he hurting these people? He just rescinded the ability of the Labor Bureau to investigate discrimination in workplace. Are you for trans people being discriminated in workplace?
They're never being discriminated.
Are
Hold on.
you for trans people being discriminated with
I'm
housing?
very passionate about that question, and can I answer it? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I believe that affirmative action should be.
It's not affirmative action.
Oh, then what is it?
It's anti-discrimination. It's
Okay,
not saying that you have to
regardless,
hire
hold on.
trans people.
Okay,
It's
well,
saying
hold on.
you can't fire someone when you find out they're trans.
Okay, well, hold on a minute. So when you hire someone or when you interview someone, for example, you are supposed to interview them based on their knowledge and their work ethic, not based on sex.
I'm not saying affirmative
not based
action.
on their sexual
Are you
orientation.
allowed to fire them if you find out they're trans?
If you need to, then you should. If you need to, then
All
you
right,
should.
so we have a disagreement.
All right,
I don't
pause.
believe people should be discriminated against.
Pause.
And that's not discrimination. It's based on your knowledge, not what you sleep with, not who you sleep with. Just saying.
If you love someone because they're trans and you hate trans people, that's discrimination. Come on. You guys very leopards aren't gonna eat my face energy. Oh wait, freeze. There we go.
Hi.
Oh, I think I saw a clip of this girl. Right.
So I actually think that this liberal world order needs to be thrown away completely, and I think Christian nationalism would be a good alternative. What we're seeing right now.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and thank you. And yeah, I think what we're seeing right now is a culture of death. This is the most suicidal generation ever. We have millions of children dying by abortion.
I've been suspended.